Welcome to Lawyers in the House with Motley. Wish you had a lawyer in the family? Now you do. Here's your host, Veronica Waters.
Welcome to Lawyers in the House with Motley on WSB. I'm Veronica Waters here, welcoming you in. Have a seat. Get yourself comfortable. We're going to have another special episode coming your way. So glad that you are joining us today. I am going to tell you that this case makes me think of a lot of how-to books, right? We've heard of how to win friends and influence people. There are books about how to adult, how to argue with the cat, how to babysit a grandpa, how to build almost anything. It even made me think of the movie, How to Train Your Dragon. Today's episode is going to be a little bit about a how not to. We're putting our own spin on it here on Lawyers in the House, and I'm going to leave you with that little nugget. First, I'm going to introduce you to the happy, the wonderful, the amazing, the scintillating, the genius attorney from Motley Injury Attorneys, who is Jennifer Fleming, back in the house with us today.
Hey, Veronica, what an introduction. Thank you.
One of my all-time favorite guests. And if you remember, if you saw our top 5 episode, that sort of highlighted some of the best moments of Lawyers in the House on the first season. Guess who was in 2 of those? That was Jennifer Fleming, and now she's back to make more amazing memories. Thank you so much for being back in the house with us, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, it's a pleasure.
I love having you here. Tell me a little bit about your road to the law. I know we've talked about it before, and one of the things that always strikes me is that you were someone who, from as a little kid, knew that you wanted to help people, and that could have manifested itself in so many ways.
Yes.
You became an attorney.
It did. And when I was in high school and growing up, my family and I participated in a lot of charitable organizations. And so that was always important. My mother was an educator. My dad worked in nonprofits his whole life. And so I think in 2nd grade, I said, I'm going to be a lawyer. And it stuck with me. And I decided to be a lawyer. The only question was, what kind of lawyer? Mm-hmm. And so helping people has always been important. And so it was a natural progression into personal injury, where you're helping people when they are at their worst, their lowest. They need an advocate. They need someone to fight for them.
Did you ever spend any time in like prosecution or defense, anything like that?
I did not, but I did clerk for a family law judge. And we had a famous case on Court TV, which was very exciting. That was in New Jersey. And then I went straight into personal injury.
How long now have you been an attorney?
The math is hard. 16 years, I think.
You could have just said, when
as
you pass
get
the
older,
bar, maybe we can do that.
As you get older, that math gets harder and harder, you know. But think about 16 years.
How to do math. Okay.
I'm a lawyer for a reason, you know.
Yeah, I love this this feeling that I get from you that you know you're doing the right thing. That always strikes me about you. It seems personal.
Yeah. And I try to do the right thing always. You know, you put yourself in the shoes of the person, or you think of that person like they're your family member, and how would you want them to be treated and helped? And you aim for that. You strive for that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Jennifer Fleming from Motley Injury Attorneys here with us on Lawyers in the House. Thank you so much, Jen, for being in the house.
Yes.
As I said, today's show is not so much a how-to as it is a how not to. We're going to call this one How Not to Tank Your Case. If you've been hurt through no fault of your own, chances are you are feeling like you're in a bit of a pickle. You're hurt. You may not be able to go to work. You may be in a lot of pain. There's no telling the myriad ways that this could change your life. Sometimes even what seems like a minor injury
Absolutely.
is absolutely a very big deal.
Right.
So there are things that not only you can do after you've been hurt to start off your case the right way, but to work as a team with your lawyer so that your case comes out in victory.
Right. And the first step is picking the right lawyer, too. If there's a lawyer that's reaching out to you and you haven't reached out to them, that's a red flag. They are not allowed to do that. You want to find an attorney on your own without the pressure of an attorney reaching out to you in a vulnerable state. You want to reach out and find the attorney that you connect with, that you have a good feeling about, that you think is going to support you, help you, be your advocate. And so it's up to the client to initiate the first contact. I know we've talked about runners a little bit on this show.
Oh, yeah. We just had a whole show about runners recently.
You need to look out for those. If there's a runner contacting you, you really need to think twice if you're going to sign with them. That is a red flag. They can't represent you from jail, and it is an illegal act. So you need to make that first call, maybe to Montlick and Associates, where we can actually help you out, as opposed to signing a contract with someone who's reaching out to you and you're not sure what you're doing and you just sign up hastily because you want to get representation. That can be a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, and in the state of Georgia, although you take cases, I know, from all over the country, and there are also some international clients too, but in Georgia, running is illegal. And a lawyer is breaking the law if they reach out to you or have someone reach out to you on their behalf first.
Yes.
Different from me saying, hey, I know some great lawyers at a firm.
Right.
Let me give you their number. Let me tell you about them.
Right.
These runners are the folks that are the ambulance chasers.
Right. They give us a bad name. And I've had people say that to me, and I say, no, actually, we don't do that. We are ethical. But yes, there are people maybe in the emergency room, maybe on the scene of the accident, someone shows up. Maybe when you're getting your car repaired, someone says, this is the lawyer for you. I mean, it's not just a suggestion. It's here's your lawyer. Or maybe you show up at a doctor's office and they have a lawyer sitting in there.
Wow.
Red flag.
Huge red flag.
Yes.
All right. So let's say that I am doing my shopping for the right attorney for me. Are there signs that I can look for in that first contact to know if I'm on the right track?
Absolutely. If you ask the value of your case on a phone call where an accident just happened and a lawyer is able to tell you the value of your case, that's something you should look out for. There are so many factors that go into examining the value of someone's case. Things like, what was your body like before the accident? What kind of treatment are you going to have? How long are you going to treat? How often? What's your diagnosis? What's your prognosis? What are your medical bills? What's the property damage like? So many unknown factors. And if they can give you a value up front, that should raise a red flag because they don't know all of those things. The insurance limits, we don't know what the insurance policy limits are. Is there underinsured motorist coverage? I know we've talked about that. But so many things. Mm-hmm. So if you call someone and they say, your case is worth $25,000, and they don't know much about you and they haven't seen what your treatment looks like and all those other things, that's a really big red flag.
I just saw a commercial a handful of days ago that said, call us now. We'll tell you how much your case is worth. I couldn't believe it.
I know. I've seen that too.
What? No, you can't.
I actually wondered that when I saw that commercial. I thought, how?
Yeah.
How on earth can they do that without knowing all of that? And I mean, and a good attorney is going to do a thorough interview with you. They're going to ask you all the right questions, but even then, right away, you can't know the value of someone's case.
Yeah, and personal injury cases are not resolved overnight.
Correct.
I mean, not that they necessarily drag,
right?
But you are on the road to wellness,
right?
And so because there are so many factors that come into play there. Yeah, how can you make a prediction that early on? And
you want to make sure that they've gotten all their treatment, or if it's someone that's going to need treatment for the rest of their life, you get a life care plan or something like that. You don't just want to, they go to the emergency room and then you tell them the value and then 2 months later they're back in treatment, their case is settled.
Yeah, they've got to have surgery or something that's totally, you have to kind of,
right.
You have to be able to be willing to look ahead.
Exactly.
Let's talk about a question that a lot of people have about how they can afford an attorney.
Right. So it's a contingency fee. So that means we only get paid if you get paid, right? That's how personal injury attorneys operate. And there are different fees throughout the state of Georgia, but you want to look out for fees that seem too good to be true.
What do you mean, too good to be true?
Well, so if someone has a really low percentage, it might be that they don't have the support staff that we have or someone else may have. They don't have the resources to support a case like they may need. If you need an accident reconstructionist, if you need experts, things like that, if the fee is really low, you have to think to yourself, why is it really low? Would you rather have 25% taken out of a grape, 40% taken out of a watermelon? How does it really come into play? And it might sound really good up front, but again, when something seems too good to be true, there's usually a reason.
Yeah, you have to have a firm that's got the resources in it. And from listening to attorneys I've met here, I know that so much can go into it. Accident reconstruction, experts from all types of fields, so much research, so much goes into building the evidence, gathering the evidence so that someone can find justice at the end of that long and painful road.
Right.
And it may be reflected
Right.
in how a firm advertises itself, really.
And it can take some time to get to your end result, but you want someone that's going to take their time and do everything necessary to get you the most amount of money they possibly can and have the resources to support you to do that. We have so much support staff that are great, and they are able to help us. And, you know, we have so many attorneys, and we really work hard with the resources we're given. We're lucky in that way.
Can my personal injury lawyer tell me, hey, Veronica, go to this doctor?
They can. The question is, should they? So you want to make sure the attorney is looking out for your best interests. When you need treatment, there are several options. You can use health insurance if it's applicable, or workers' compensation if it's applicable. And so if you have those options and an attorney's telling you a doctor to go to and you have to pay them out of settlement, that's a big red flag as well. You want to look out for someone who's going to maximize your recovery.
Yeah, the recovery comes first.
Right.
And the managing attorney at Montlick, Alan Saltzman, always says that the priority is getting you well.
Yeah.
And the personal injury and the law, leave that to us.
Right.
But you've got to heal first. Coming up on Lawyers in the House with Montlick, as we learn how not to tank your case, what role do you play after picking the right lawyer for you? That is coming up. This is Lawyers in the House with Montlick on WSB. I'm Veronica Waters here with Montlick injury attorney Jennifer Fleming. We're talking about how not to tank your case, something that you are going to want to sit down and take notes about, how you can be a good teammate with your lawyer who's sort of coaching the case along, right? And calling the plays and letting you know how to help get you well and how to strategize and build evidence so that when it's time to talk to the insurance companies, all of the needed information is in place. And the first part was picking the right lawyer and being very cautious about maybe signing with an attorney who would break the law to come solicit you, which is against the law in most states, to sign you up. If they are willing to break the law to sign you, what will they do once they've got your case in the door? Yeah. But everybody plays a role.
Yeah. I mean, we need the client to help, right? Help us help you. So the most important thing is that you're honest with the attorney. Honesty is key, because if there's something you're hiding from us and we have to litigate your case, meaning we have to officially sue them, the other party, file a complaint in the courthouse, and we get into a time called discovery, which is an information gathering phase, the insurance company will find out. So it's better that we know any potential speed bumps or things that we need to deal with before going into that, so that we can deal with them properly.
Yeah, don't let your lawyer fall into quicksand that you could have steered them around.
Exactly.
I always say there are two people to whom you should never lie. Okay, 3 if you count your spouse, right? But you should never lie to your doctor, never lie to your lawyer.
Agreed. And both apply here, really, too.
Yeah,
so
good point.
If you're getting treatment, don't lie to the doctor either. So being honest. I once had a client, and before we file suit, we ask if they have any criminal history. Nothing wrong with having it, but we just need to be able to properly deal with it. He said, no, I was in a deposition, and it turned out he went to jail for 15 years for attempted murder.
Whoa, wait a minute. And that came out in the deposition.
Yes. And now, to be fair, they can ask that question in a deposition, but I would have liked to have been prepared for that answer and prepare going forward, because at that point we had already done something called answering interrogatories, which are written questions, but you're sworn to tell the truth in them. And we had answered no. So it looks like the client's lying if he swore earlier that he didn't have any criminal history, and now here we are and it's coming out. And so we don't want to be blindsided. We want to be able to represent you the best that we can, and to do that we need your honesty.
Did that client tank his case in that moment?
We ended up settling very shortly thereafter, for a multitude of reasons, but it didn't help things. And it can really mess things up if you're in trial and something comes out and your attorney doesn't know.
Yeah, because first of all, you've got to deal with the insurance company, which is already probably haggling over whatever the settlement number is going to be. But if they think that the client is lying about something that was so far in the past, even if it is a criminal history, what could you be lying about now?
Right.
And you don't want that to happen in front of a jury.
Exactly.
We are talking about how not to tank your personal injury case. Coming up on Lawyers in the House with Montlick, something else that you can do along the way to help yourself out. Stay with us. Welcome back to Lawyers in the House with Montlick on WSB. I'm Veronica Waters here with Montlick injury attorney Jennifer Fleming, a familiar face to us, someone we all know and love, and her legal expertise we trust. If you missed any of Jen's truth bombs in the beginning of this show, listen, you need to go to your favorite platform of podcasts right now and subscribe to Lawyers in the House so you can hear all of those gems. Take careful notes. Hopefully you won't ever need a personal injury lawyer, but if you do, you're going to want to know her advice for how not to tank your case. And as always, keep up with us all 7 days of the week, not just on show day, on all platforms. Social, we are at Montlick Law. I can't wait to see you there. Lawyers in the House with Montlick, talking about how not to tank your case, Jen. And you talked about choosing the right lawyer from the very start is a really huge one.
It is. And at Montlick, we have over 40 attorneys. We've been here for over 40 years. And like I said before, we have the support staff to support our clients and our cases. And that is really important. You really need to look at that when you're looking at a firm. We also have the experience as well. But the support, like I talked about before, just in making sure that everything is secured that needs to be for your case, we have that.
Making sure all I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Exactly.
I know from other Montlick injury attorneys that sometimes when people call that number
Yes.
and get you on the phone,
Yes.
they've got really sometimes heartbreaking stories.
Yes.
Because they've already been with another firm.
Yes, and that's not to say don't call us if you've been with another firm. Please give us a call if you're questioning your representation. We're happy to talk to you. But sometimes people call and they have been given some bad advice or they've already done some things that we would not have done from the beginning. I know we did a show on recorded statements, and sometimes the client's given that on their own to an insurance company. We don't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they post things on social media and they may not think twice about it and they're just posting things. It might be a picture of the car from the car accident, or it might be them out there running a 5K for charity and they think nothing of it, but they've also said they can't run anymore. Or, the insurance company pulls down that picture from your social media of the car and they say, look, there's really not much damage. You posted it out there. So, you need to be very conscious of what you're posting on social media, nothing about the case, and make sure you're, again, we talked about this, being honest with your attorney. So you're not posting pictures of things you say you can't do and then you're doing them.
Yeah. But we've also talked about a couple of things that you just mentioned. Sometimes in a long and painful recovery, somebody can have a good day. Maybe you did feel like dancing at the wedding that day. Maybe you were smiling the day that you took that picture. It doesn't mean that you have not been going through agonizing pain.
True.
It doesn't mean that your recovery is just a lie.
Very
right?
true.
But you have to be honest about that. And you have to be, I think, conscientious is what I hear you saying about how it can be perceived by someone who is making it, whose job it is, I guess I should say.
To cherry pick, right? And to drop the numbers for whatever settlement that you're going to get to help you on your road to recovery. Exactly. They might take that one glimpse and that one moment in time and then use it against you later. I had a client who had surgery on her neck, and we were in a deposition, and she had said she could not hold her neck down to read. She enjoyed reading before this. Mm-hmm. She couldn't let her neck down for more than, I think she said 5 minutes. They asked her specific time periods. How long can you look down without it bothering you? How long does it take? I think she said something 5 minutes. And then it was revealed that they had an investigator follow her, and she had gone to like a Marshall's or a Ross or some store, and she got there before they opened, and they had video of her reading on her phone with her neck down for 30 minutes straight.
Oh.
So things like that where you just want to be honest. And And that also goes to having a good lawyer. A good lawyer in a deposition will direct you that you can approximate and estimate, but you should not guess at any number.
It's okay to say, I don't know,
It
or
is
I don't recall, I don't
perfectly
remember.
acceptable. Those are great answers if they are true. You say, I don't know, I don't remember. If they're trying to lock you into a number, there's a difference between guessing and estimating. So she might have said, I don't know, I can't really have my neck down for approximately, 5 to 30 minutes, depending on the day, or a qualifier there. I had another client where I was at trial, actually, and he was going to be getting some epidural injections, and those help your pain. And it was the neck or back. I can't remember the specifics. And he was supposed to have them on, let's say, a Friday. They had an investigator follow him on Thursday, the day before the injections. So in theory, the day when you would still be in pain before you got that relief. And they brought out footage of him in front of the jury playing a semi-professional baseball game, sliding into bases, hitting balls, running for balls in the outfield. And I just looked at him and I said, are you serious? Like, this is, you're doing this when you're allegedly in the worst pain of your life. And so that does not play well for a jury. I will tell you that. And again, you need to be honest with your attorney.
You have to be honest with your attorney. Yes.
You need to help us help you. We can't help you if you're not honest with us. We can help you as best we can, but we need all of the information, all of the facts. And it's okay, by the way, if you are injured and you are able to do things. It's okay. People have to live their lives. We get that. So be honest, too, in a deposition at trial. Number one rule is being honest.
I do think, too, that there is someone that I know was talking to me about like different restrictions that you get after a certain kind of experience. And she was making the point about being told don't lift anything over, 10 pounds or whatever. And then if you do lift your child who weighs more than 10 pounds, it's like it's not a gotcha moment. I think what my understanding of those instructions is that you just can't be consistently lifting things over 10 pounds. Don't walk around lifting weight or whatever it is.
Right.
You can occasionally move something from place to place, but you're jeopardizing your health, right, if you do it.
Right.
So people need to, I think, understand the difference between, a guideline for healing.
Right.
And it's not a gotcha moment, but sliding into bases.
Right. A necessity versus a non-necessity. Picking up your child is a necessity.
Yeah.
I mean, we would all do that if we had to. I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it, especially if you're there by yourself. But playing baseball, not something you have to do. Reading on your phone for 30 minutes down with your neck, not something you have to do. But again, it's okay if you can do those things. You just have to be honest with us and honest in general about
what about the comfort level? I think a lawyer can be very intimidating.
Yes.
I need a comfort level, I'm assuming, with my lawyer to be able to be forthright and honest.
And the attorneys at Montlick are great at that. In a first phone call, you're talking to the attorney. Unlike other places, you always talk to an attorney with Montlick. And so we're there to ease your worries. When I'm doing an initial interview with you, it's going to be thorough. But I'm also there to take that stress away from you. You have to deal with healing. Let us do the rest. Let us take that burden off your shoulders. And yeah, you do want to have a connection with your lawyer, I think. And I had someone the other day that said he was going to call around, when he first called in, he's like, I'm going to call around. And after speaking to me, he said, I feel really comfortable with you. And I said, that's great. I said, I want you to feel comfortable with your attorney. And so he then hired us. And so, yeah, that's really important.
What if I feel afraid to ask my lawyer certain things?
Don't be afraid. That's what we're here for. We are here to give you the best guidance possible and ease any of those worries. Communication is key. And so at Montlick, we have the support staff and the attorneys that reach out to you on a regular basis so that we're keeping you in the loop and so that hopefully you are comfortable then asking questions when we're reaching out to you to give you updates. We're asking you for updates. That is literally our job.
Yeah. And it also, tell me how important it is for me as the injured person to keep track of all the stuff that I'm doing medically and letting you know. I mean, do people just expect you guys to know magically where they're getting treatment and what's getting done?
Sometimes, but that's why we keep in close communication every, so many days. We're contacting the clients to make sure we're keeping those records updated so that while you're going through the process, you can tell us so that, in 6 months when you're done treating, you don't have to think back and say, what was that doctor I went to, 3 months ago? We stay in constant communication so that while you're going to that doctor, you know their name, we get the information so that we can get those bills and records, because that's important too. You don't want someone who's just going to call you. You're going to talk to them once and then, 6 months, a year down the line when you're done treating, and then you have to remember all that stuff. And that's really hard for anyone to remember.
Yeah, and then here's a $15,000 bill that nobody mentioned. And it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now?
Right. And sometimes that can still happen, but we try as best we can to have that not happen by keeping in close contact. But it's also important too for the client to keep in contact with us. Sometimes people change numbers. So that's another way to help us help you, is by making sure we have the proper way to reach you.
Making sure all your contact information is current.
Exactly.
Something that's interesting too, when I was talking to Sarah Nealon, who was in here, we were talking about this journey to justice. And she said one of the things that's so helpful is that she has clients who actually keep journals.
Yes, we do.
About the pain that they're experiencing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We ask them to keep those if they can. And those are helpful again at the end. And it's helpful for pain and suffering for our information, so that when we're writing the demands to the insurance company, we know where that really affected their lives.
Yeah. And if it goes to a jury, they're hearing in that person's own words just what that moment was like. Because one of the most impactful things that came out of that conversation to me was the sort of reminder of how we as humans can tend to block out the worst of what we go through. I remember hearing somebody say, if mothers remembered what the pain of childbirth was like the first time, they would never have a second kid. Everybody would be an only child.
Exactly.
But you kind of, we kind of remember, our brains remember for us a way to sort of put that pain and those worst parts in a box. And so they don't necessarily remember moment by moment how excruciating it could have been. So writing it down in the moment or putting a voice note on your phone.
Anything, yes.
Could be really helpful.
Documenting it while it's happening is the best way to do it.
The best way to do it. Coming up, we are getting ready for the Montlick closing argument. How not to tank your case. You don't want to miss this, so stay with us. All right, welcome back to the house. Lawyers in the House with Montlick on WSB. I'm Veronica Waters here with Montlick injury attorney Jennifer Fleming. So glad to have her back in the house, giving you all of the nuggets you need to know about how not to tank your case. And you have been waiting for this all hour long. And who am I to keep it from you? So let's start right now with the Montlick closing argument. Jennifer Fleming.
So a couple of things we touched on today that are really important. First and foremost, choosing the right lawyer. At Montlick, like we've stressed, we have the support staff and the ability to advocate for you and fight for you. 2, be honest and communicative. So you want to be honest with your attorney, honest with your doctors, honest in discovery, honest throughout your entire case as a client. And it's also our job as the attorney to be honest with you as well. And just to touch on something, even if you're honest with us about something that might be a little hairy in your past, that does not necessarily mean it's admissible at trial, but it is something we should know, because we can make the proper motions to keep certain things out. We can't do that if we don't know the information. So being honest, communicating with the attorney, and the attorney communicating with you. You should look for an attorney that's going to communicate with you, that their office is reaching out to you regularly. Keep a journal in real time. So while you're going through the process, write down how it's affecting your day-to-day life, those activities that you can't do, because later on down the road, like you pointed out, you might not remember those things, and those things are important. And at Montlick, we're here to help you. We're here to fight for you. We're more than just a billboard. We're more than just a TV commercial. We're trying to make a difference in people's lives, and we want you to help us help you so that we can get the best result for you possible.
What is your ideal client like, Jennifer? Probably that laundry list that you just gave us paints a good example.
Someone that's just honest with me and tells me what's going on.
You've got to have something. Can you just briefly tell me about a client that really made it easy for you to do your job as we get ready to close out?
That's a tough question. I mean, I have a lot of clients. I don't want this to sound like we have so many clients being dishonest with us, because we don't.
Yeah.
It's the rarity.
That's a rarity.
Yeah. But just a client who says in the initial interview, they tell me everything that's going on. I ask them a lot of information, and they give it to me. They keep track of their injuries so that when we're writing those demands, I can I can understand how it affected their life for pain and suffering purposes. And they focus on their healing. They follow along with whatever the doctor's orders are. And that's the best recipe for a good client, really.
I love it. Thank you so much to Jennifer Fleming, Montlick injury attorney. I'm Veronica Waters here with Lawyers in the House on WSB. These are tips on how not to tank your case. It starts from the very first phone call. Remember, if you get a bad lawyer, you just might get bad results. Don't let that happen to you. We'll see you next time.